Saturday night, we will find out who wins the Heisman Trophy, as they will be hosting the Heisman Trophy ceremony with the finalists in New York. And the finalists for the Heisman Trophy are Fernando Mendoza, Diego Pavia, Jeremiah Love, and Julian Sand. They also released the 10 players with the most Heisman votes, but in this video, I want to go through my personal Heisman top 10, and this is just my opinion. I'm going to be giving you my Heisman Trophy pick. But before we do that, let's start off all the way down at number 10. I have Jeremiah Smith, Ohio State wide receiver. He had another monster season with over 1,000 receiving yards, and he set a career high in 80 receptions. He also had 11 touchdowns through 12 games. And I also have to give him credit for that game he had against Indiana. He was a vocal point on that offense. He went for over 100 receiving yards. He had some key plays for Ohio State that kept them in that game. It came down to the wire. And that was definitely a great performance from Jeremiah Smith. He's one of the best players, possibly the best player in the country, but I do have him at number 10 on my Heisman top 10. Number 9, I have Haynes King. He got a bit more quiet near the end of the season. It must be tough as a quarterback taking all those bumps and all those hits. And in the late season, that wear and tear definitely catches up to you. And he definitely slowed down a bit late season, but we have to give him props for the season he had, because I don't know if there's another player in the ACC that contributed to their team as much as Haynes King. And not just the ACC, but in the whole country, Haynes King was a great quarterback for this team. He's not the typical type of quarterback that you usually see, but he's a gritty quarterback and he deserves recognition. He took a bit of a step forward in the passing game. He completed 71.7% of his passes. He went for 2,700 yards and 12 touchdowns, and he only threw 5 interceptions, and he also led the ACC in rushing touchdowns with 15 while running for nearly 1,000 yards on the ground at quarterback. Haynes King is a big reason why this team was in the ACC title hunt and went 9-3. The defense didn't help him out at all, but we cannot take away from the incredible season that Haynes King had. I don't know if he's going to be a success in the NFL, but he's definitely had a great college career, and I do have him at number 9 on my Heisman top 10 this season. At number 8, I have Marcel Reed. The voters don't have him in the top 10, but I personally think Marcel Reed deserves some recognition. Did he have his down moments and throw 10 interceptions? Yes, he did. But I think he took an even bigger step forward this year. He threw for nearly 3,000 passing yards with a completion percentage of 61. Not the greatest, but when this team needed him, he put this team on their back. He threw for 25 touchdowns. He also ran for 466 yards and ran for 6 touchdowns. He cost them the game against Texas. He had a very bad first half against South Carolina, but I don't know if this team would have won 11 games if it wasn't for Marcel Reed. There were times this year where the team needed him, and he stepped it up, like in the second half against South Carolina. I think he had an incredible season. It wasn't perfect, but his high was very high. He averaged 8.7 yards a pass, and that is third in the SEC. And I know he had receivers to help him out, but I think he did his job for the majority of the season, and I do have him at number 8. Number 7, I have Ole Miss quarterback Trinidad Chambliss. Earlier in the season, after quarterback Austin Simmons went down, Chambliss stepped up in a big way for this team. He was a transfer from Ferris State, and he had great success as a dual-threat quarterback at Ferris State. It's another thing to do it at the SEC level, and not only did he do it at the SEC level, but he did it with pressure. He stepped up out of nowhere when this team needed him. He had no prior experience in the SEC, and what he was able to do this season was very impressive and under the radar. He completed 65.5% of his passes. He threw for 3,000 yards, 18 touchdowns, and only 3 interceptions in that Lane Kiffin system. He's helped lead this team to a college football playoff berth and a first-round game against Tulane at home. He's got the 5th best QBR rating in the nation, and we can't leave off his rushing stats. He was a great dual-threat option for this team and definitely gave them something on the ground, as he did at Ferris State too. He carried the ball 118 times for 470 yards and 6 rushing touchdowns. Trinidad Chambliss had a very solid season and definitely deserves to be in the top 10. I have him at number 7. Number 6, I have Georgia quarterback Gunnar Stockton. You don't usually see Georgia quarterbacks getting a lot of love, but Gunnar Stockton came out of nowhere. He was under the radar, and he's still super underrated. The dude had a very solid season. No, his stats are not off the chart, but if you want to look at the most consistent and efficient quarterbacks this season, look right ahead at Gunnar Stockton. This dude had an incredible year. He helped elevate that Georgia offense. Georgia went 12-1 with an SEC title. and Stockton was the leader on that offense. He was a threat with both his arm and his legs, and he completed 70% of his passes. He threw for 2,700 yards and 23 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions, a big upgrade from Carson Beck, and he ran for 442 yards and 8 touchdowns on the ground. He was a gritty quarterback all year for this team, and this is a Georgia team without any off-the-chart wide receivers. And just like Trinidad Chambliss, he had one of the best QBR ratings in the nation. He averaged 7.6 yards a pass. He just had a very great season, and I do have Gunnar Stockton at number 6. At number 5, I'm leaving Julian Sayin off of my Heisman finalist. I don't think he was top 4 for me. If you just look at his statistics, yes, his statistics are the best in the country, and that's why he is a Heisman finalist going to New York tomorrow. But personally, in my opinion, I think the guy I have above him deserves it more. Julian Sayin didn't play great competition this year, and another reason I'm not putting him in my top 4 is because of lack of Heisman moments. All the guys above him have great Heisman moments. Julian Sayin had a good game against Michigan. That was probably his best game of the season if you look at who they played. Look, his stats were incredible, but throwing for over 300 yards on Wisconsin, Purdue, Minnesota, Ohio, some of the worst passing defenses in the Big Ten, and of course a group of 5 team in Ohio. When he played decent pass defenses like Washington and Illinois, he struggled. Well, I wouldn't say he struggled, but he only threw for around 200 yards. He also struggled a bit against UCLA. And of course, the game without Tate and Smith, where he only threw for 150 passing yards against Rutgers. The game against Michigan was solid, but they let him loose a little bit. I just don't think Julian Sayin belongs in the Heisman Trophy ceremony. Yes, he had the second best QBR rating. You have to give him props for the season he had as a first-year starter for Ohio State. But the reason I'm not putting him in my top 4 is because I think Jacob Rodriguez, Texas Tech linebacker, deserves to be on here, and I have him at number 4 on my ranking. Texas Tech is a front 7 that creates havoc all game. They have probably the best and most ruthless front 7 in the nation, and it's led by a guy like Jacob Rodriguez, probably the best defensive player in college football, and I really think he should be heading to New York. He totaled 117 tackles this year, along with 11 tackles for loss, a sack, 4 interceptions, and 7 forced fumbles as a fifth-year senior. He created havoc in the backfield for running backs, and nobody wants to run at him. And he was a big reason for this team going 12-1 and now being a national title contender in some people's eyes. It really would have been cool to see Jacob Rodriguez make it as a Heisman Trophy finalist, because I don't think Julian Sayin had an off-the-charts year. It was good, but nothing crazy. They didn't play anybody all year, but Jacob Rodriguez had a very, very solid year. He's just a monster on that Texas Tech defense and a lot of fun to watch. Therefore, I do have him at number 4. At number 3, I have Jeremiah Love. The dude was going crazy. Despite the slow start he had to the season, he turned up in a big way, running for nearly 1,400 yards, which is 4th in the country, with 18 rushing touchdowns. And those 18 rushing touchdowns are 3rd in the country, only to Ole Miss and North Texas running backs. Both those offenses were so explosive. But I am impressed with Jeremiah Love because despite being the only player in the top 9 with under 200 carries, he still had a great season. Despite sharing carries with the back and Jadarian Price, he was the very focus on that Notre Dame offense, and he was the reason this Notre Dame offense turned up a lot this season. It's disappointing to see them get left out of the playoffs. They were making progress and improving every week. They could have went on and won the national title with potentially the best player in college football. Jeremiah Love was having an incredible year. And it's not just the run game, but look at what he does in the passing game. That's another thing that gives him a bonus and a jump, because he had 280 receiving yards, 10.4 yards per catch, and 3 touchdowns. He can really do it all, and he's a great athlete on the field, and I do think he belongs in the Heisman Trophy ceremony. I have him at number 3. And at number 2, I have Diego Pavia. Maybe he's just getting too much media buzz because of who he is and the people he's hanging around. But I do think he deserves some recognition, and he's had an incredible year. I have him at number 2 myself. He's got the 4th best QBR rating in the nation. He's thrown for 3,200 yards with 27 passing touchdowns, only 8 interceptions. We'll see how he does against that Iowa defense, because I could see Vanderbilt getting exposed. But another thing that impresses me is that he took a big step forward in completion percentage at 71 from last year's 59. He had a couple of crazy games against pretty solid defenses, He threw for 365 yards against Texas and 3 touchdowns. I think he actually broke some records too. I mean, look what he did against Kentucky. 484 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, 84 completion percentage, 377 passing yards against Auburn. This late season, he has just turned up, and maybe he's just stat padding, but I don't think there's a lot of guys who deserve to be ahead of him. Along with what he is able to do on the ground, as he has ran for 9 rushing touchdowns. In his last 6 games, he has had at least 1 rushing touchdown. The second half of the season has just been incredible, and he's ran for 826 yards, so that really boosts his Heisman resume, and I wouldn't be surprised if he won this thing. I just don't think he has enough Heisman moments like the guy above him does, and that's why I have Fernando Mendoza at number 1. Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza clinched his Heisman Trophy. I think he clinched it in that victory over Ohio State in the Heisman moment to end the game, the fade route to the young Charlie Becker. And look, unlike Diego Pavia, Mendoza has been benched in third and fourth quarters this season, but he's still thrown for nearly 3,000 yards and he leads the country in passing touchdowns with 33. He's averaging 9.4 yards a pass, which is very high in the country. And look, leading his team to a Big Ten championship and an undefeated season really boosts his resume as well. He's got the third best QBR rating in the nation, only 6 interceptions. His legs aren't the biggest part of his game, but he can also do that. He ran for 6 rushing touchdowns and 240 yards. But what sets him apart from the other guys is the Heisman moments he's had. The game against Oregon, the throw to the back of the end zone against Penn State, the throw to clinch the game against Ohio State. He has been getting all the Heisman moments, all the eyes have been on him. I think he is going to be the Heisman winner, and he's my Heisman winner as well. Statistics don't say everything, but Mendoza was a very solid quarterback and super consistent, and he would make throws where nobody else can in the country, so I do have Fernando Mendoza as my number 1 in the Heisman top 10. But anyways, you guys let me know, who do you think will win the Heisman Trophy tomorrow down in the comments below. And let me remind you guys to like the video and also subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. And if you guys love college football, then you'll love this channel because we upload a ton of college football content and we basically cover everything on this channel. So definitely consider subscribing and also consider checking out my socials down in the description below. But that is going to do it, guys, and peace out.